We're sitting here with former legend of the Melbourne Football Club,
Not quite.
Torpedo King, and soon-to-be greatest golfer Australia's ever produced, Jayden Hunt. Welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Good to have a bit of a yarn with you.
The greatest pretender of all time.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about how pretending and finding a way can make some of those amazing things, and talk a little bit about how you are one of the only people to be drafted, not through academies or anything like that, but straight from just playing footy for your school.
Yeah, that's a pretty crazy story. I was pretty good at sport and things like that until I was maybe 13, and then I was a very late developer. Didn't really hit puberty till I was 18. I used to be bagged by my friends because I didn't have pubic hair, because that was the main thing when you're 16 years of age, which is pretty funny. I had a squeaky voice, very short and everything. But I always loved sport. I love always being outdoors, so played sort of every sport, but with footy, obviously, you need to be a bit bigger, so that sort of fell away a little bit. I played a lot of tennis. I didn't need the size in that, so I sort of played for school there, captained the school in tennis, and then basically wasn't picked in the rep teams because I was always really small. And then had a massive growth spurt in year 12. Long story short, got extremely lucky that two of my teammates, Josh Kelly and Christian Salem, were in my school team. I caught the eye of people, a few recruiters. It was a Melbourne sort of part-time recruiter that actually first saw me in a game against Caulfield Grammar. I was just I was a back pocket, skinny as anything, but fast. So, yeah.
At a young age, that obviously does a lot for you. But now looking back at your career, what do you think that mindset difference has given you and in what you pursue in life?
Yeah, I always say, it's classic, small man syndrome, I guess. When I was sort of, between maybe year 8 and year 12, I had to sort of grind my way to get everything out of my body at that time compared to my friends and peers and the better sort of players. So, yeah, I just grinded, found a way to win. And then when I grew, I think it was 6 inches in 6 months, crazy amount. I got stress fractures in year 11, and the radiologist said, I'm pretty sure you're about to grow. And Dad was there as well, and he's like, that makes sense. I did the same thing when I was young, had a massive late growth spurt. And then, when I was on the sidelines, 17, turning 18, I grew, a crazy amount. And then I started year 12 with this new pace, this new size. And so, but to your point, I still had the small person's, I guess, mindset, which relates to a football field because size does matter a little bit. So I still grind my way, but now I had the physical sort of prowess with the speed and just a little bit bigger, so I can sort of compete with the bigger guys. And and luckily I was fast, and I've relied on that little one wood ever since.
It's funny. I don't think I've ever heard too many people use Napoleonic syndrome as an advantage. But I guess that's kind of the way that you go about it in life.
Yeah, I think it just teaches you a good mindset. I'm super competitive. I think we were talking about this before. I make everything a competition, even if the person I'm with or a random person on a highway at the traffic lights doesn't know they're in a race with me. I've just always liked that. I'm pretty laid back dude. I like relaxing, enjoying time with my friends and stuff, but in the background, my mind's always ticking over about being competitive, and I love that. And that was my favorite thing about football. I didn't necessarily fit into the culture as well as other players do and things like that, but I loved game day. I loved training hard, but I also loved away from the football field, completely getting away from it.
Talk a little bit about that internal mindset at a football club. What is that vibe?
I think people would guess this, but it's a very jockey culture. And in high school, I was never in this sort of jock group. I had my friends and things like that. And I probably don't tell my friends enough, but the fact that my school friends, which are still some of my very close mates, didn't actually like football was the greatest thing for me, is because I would live with them in my 20s and share houses and stuff. I'd come home from, say, an Anzac Eve game in front of nearly 100,000 people, and I'd meet them out for a drink on Chapel Street, for example. And they'd be like, "Oh, how'd you go tonight?" I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, we won." And they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, whatever. Like, check out this DJ or something like." And that got me through, whereas a lot of the other players would live with each other, footy. They just love the game, love everything around it, all that stuff. Which, to be honest, if I did that, I'd go insane. And I did that one year when I first got dropped. I started obsessing over the game. I made everything about it. And it was the worst form of my career because it was just, I wasn't enjoying myself. I didn't have all this energy. And so then I quickly realized that the more fun I have off field, within a certain,
you don't go
to a certain point where you can still actually train and everything like that. The more times I played golf, the more times I served, hung out with my school friends and had a beer or two, whatever it is. It doesn't need to be that, but I would come to training on a Monday or I'd come to the G on a Friday night and I'd be happy, be energetic, and I'd be ready to go. And there was never a question about my work ethic ever, because the time, whether it be the white line at training or a game day, I'd be working just as hard as anyone else because that's just in my nature. I love that aspect of it. I love actually outworking someone and puffing more than them and things like that, which is interesting.
You talk about that, like, you know, so many people today, they think that to succeed, you got to fucking work and you got to fucking work and you got to fucking work. But you're talking about that, like, balance, and getting to that epitome of excellence needs to also understand that you got to still be you and who you are.
Well, I think that's the point that's really important. It's actually finding out about yourself first. And I don't think he'd mind me saying this. Like Jack Viney, for example, I was with him my whole career at Melbourne, the 9 years I was there. He couldn't, as like a human, be more polar opposite of me. He's obsessed by football. Like football's his life, which is great. He's got a family now. They're also his life. But he loves football. He grew up with Todd and everything like that. I think with him, he has to be that mindset, football and stuff, to be able to succeed. He's learned that that's how he does things. But vice versa, if I did that, I would start performing bad. And if he did what I did, where I drive out of the club or whatever and then I go chill with my friends, play golf or whatever, not even talk about it, and he, in his mind, might think on a Saturday when he's lining up against someone in the midfield that he might be looking at them and being like, "Oh, they've talked about footy more this week," or they've watched more tape or stuff like that. So I think it's not just football, it's anything, I believe. Like, I'm still very young. I say young as a 31-year-old, but a footy career is so short. So I am still very young. I say this just through my experience. I think, like, one thing I've learned is knowing yourself is the most important thing. So whatever works for you, do that. Don't necessarily fall into the mold of everyone else, because every person on this planet is wired differently.